2002 PT Cruiser valve cover replacement. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'm going to walk you through that process. So the first thing we need to do is get this upper plenum intake out off. So I'm going to start by popping the clips off the air cleaner, popping that off. Unplug the air temp sensor and take the hose clamp off here and remove the air boot. On the connector for the air temp sensor, you got to move the little red clip here. You got to slide it back and then you can push the clip underneath and pull the sensor off. So that's what it'll look like when the air cleaner's off. So now we're going to unplug the TPS sensor, the idle air control motor sensor. Disconnect the vacuum line here. We're going to unplug the map sensor here, and the same thing, it's got the little red tab. You're going to pull it backwards like that, and then right behind it is this squeeze tab. You're going to squeeze it and pull it off. You're also going to need to pop out the little wire loom in a couple spots, so go ahead and remove those. And then once you get that done, you go ahead and remove the 14mm bolt that's here, right underneath the opening of the throttle body here. Remove that bolt here. And then on the back side, my car has an EGR valve, so you need to remove the bolts here going to this tube. Go ahead and remove both of those, and there's going to be a gasket behind it, and it may want to fall out, and so you may want to, as you take it out, you want to catch it. So after getting the EGR tube unbolted, next is you're going to pop off the vacuum hose that goes to the brake booster. So you pop that off here, and then on the valve cover there's a vent hose that goes to the PCV valve. You're going to pop that off right here, and then you're going to pop this hose off here right next to the brake booster vacuum hose. Pop that one off too. Now there's two ways you can go about this. You can take this cover off and unhook the throttle cables and take it off, or you can do what I'm going to try to do, which is take the intake plenum bolts out and leave the throttle body hooked up, and I'm just going to flip the intake over into this area over here and out of my way. I like to do stuff like that, try to take off the least amount of things as I possibly can. It speeds the job up. So that's how I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm not 100% positive when I get it over here if there's going to be enough room for me to work, and if there's not, then I'll just go ahead and disconnect the cable and then go ahead and just remove the whole plenum off. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the 8mm bolts here at the front of the plenum here. So now that the 8mm bolts are off on the front, you can lift it up and kind of flip the manifold out of your way. You can even put it up here on the cowling. Okay, now that we got the intake manifold off, I got my rags stuffed in here so nothing falls inside. We're gonna start working on removing this valve cover. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the ignition wires out. We're gonna leave them all plugged onto the coil. So we're gonna pull the ignition wires up, all four of them. And we're gonna unbolt the coil, the 4 bolts holding the coil on. So there's one here, one here, one here, and one here. And we're gonna leave it all, you know, the wires actually plugged in and everything, and we're just going to flip it down here out of the way. And then you can also use rags or whatever and clean it up. And if your ignition wires are in really bad shape, you can go ahead and replace those now. Just, you know, the coil is marked cylinder number 1, cylinder number 2, so you shouldn't have to get them mixed up or anything. You can go ahead and replace that if you choose to. Also, a tip for you is when you pull these wires out is to pull from the boot itself. You may have to wiggle them or whatever, twist them a little bit to get them to pop out, but don't pull from the wire, because the wire will pull out of the electro and damage the wires. So now that we got our coil unbolted, instead of putting it over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually route it over here and kind of stuff it over here. We need to get this power steering, we just need to take the 2 bolts out of the bracket. So you're going to follow the bracket down, and then right about here there's going to be 2 bolts. Probably 13mm bolts here, so you'll take those 2 bolts out, and then the bracket will be able to maneuver it. We'll leave the hoses and everything hooked up, and we'll just maneuver it out of our way as we finish taking the valve cover. So after unbolting the power steering reservoir and bracket, now you can just kind of maneuver it where you want to, but like I said, just leave the hoses hooked up. So now you can go ahead and remove all the 8mm bolts to hold the valve cover on. And so there's going to be 3 here, 3 down the center, and 3 on the back. And you're also going to disconnect this vent hose that goes to the air box. Now that you get all the bolts out, you can put a little screwdriver here, like here, and kind of give it a little twist and pop the cover up. And you lift up the back side towards the air cleaner first, and then you pull it towards you and remove it out. So So now that we got the valve cover off, your gasket may have stuck to the cylinder head like mine did. Let's go ahead and remove that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to clean the surface here on the cylinder head, and you're going to push the dirt away from the, you don't want to wash it into the cylinder head, so you're going to wash everything away. Then you're going to remove the silicone on the cam lobes, so you're going to use a scraper, and then there's also a half moon here. We're going to pop that out too, and we're going to scrape off all the silicone here. So you're going to use it like a little tool and pull this half moon out right here, and then you're going to clean out all the silicone, and then we'll put some new silicone in this and put it back in, and you'll do the same all the way around. Then after we get that all cleaned up, then we're going to clean the valve cover itself. So we're going to, in this case, the outside is really disgusting, so I'm going to clean. We have a pressure washer here. I'm going to pressure wash it. If you have a parts washer, go ahead and put it in the parts washer. And also, the bolts are going to come out, and they got these little rubber grommets, so you want to keep track of all that stuff. They may stick in the head when you go to pull them out. And then we'll flip it over, and we'll wash the inside of the valve cover out, at least the groove where the valve cover gaskets ride, and we'll change. Take these seals out. They're called tube seals. You may have to put a little screwdriver, a little pocket screwdriver, or a pick in there and pick these out. All 4 of those. So to get the half moon cam plug out, what I did was take my pry bar like this and I put it below like that and give it a kind of a pry upwards and twist. And you can use the little cam lug right here, so you can put that, so you can use it and you can pry it against like that. So once you get that out, you want to clean all the silicone out with a screwdriver, scraper, whatever it takes, and clean out all the silicone here. And then you're going to put a bead of black silicone back into this after you get it all cleaned up, all the surface cleaned up, and you'll put this back in. So after getting our valve cover itself all cleaned up, you can go ahead and press in the new valve cover gasket, and you're also going to put in new tube seals. And the seals, they have these little hash marks, and you want to make sure that on this particular brand, it's a let's see what brand it is. It's a Felpro gasket, and this is the part number I'm using on this 2002 here. So you want to make sure that you don't put them in upside down. And see how they got that little, it's kind of sloped right there at that angle. So you want to make sure that points downwards, and you got these little hash marks. You want to make sure that the hash marks line up, and you just press them in until they press snug all the way around. And also you'll see that it has this little raised lip. You want that raised lip kind of pointing upwards. So you go ahead and install that and press that in, and after that, and now that the cylinder head mating surfaces are all cleaned up, what you're going to do is you're going to take a little black silicone. I like to use Right Stuff by Permanex, and you're going to put a little bit, on the corners of the cam lobes here, on that, and then you're going to put some on this cam lobe here, the back side, and then you're going to fill up this half moon like so with a little bit of silicone, and you're going to put that back in position. You'll just slide it back in like so and let it ooze out. And then you'll put the valve cover back on top, and start all your bolts. Before we start or put our bolts in, start after you get the, I like to take a mirror like so, and then look around the valve cover and make sure that the gasket didn't fall off in any way when we're installing it. And once you're confident that's clear, then you can go ahead and put your bolts back on. You can also change these rubber grommets if your kit came with it. Mine didn't come with it, but mine are in really good shape. They're really soft and pliable, so you go ahead and put those and start all your bolts. Start them all and run them down until they're snug. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start in the middle, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that, and you'll torque them all down, snug them all down until they're all tight. And then what you do is you can torque it a second pass at 9 foot-pounds, all of them. Now that the valve cover is all torqued down, you can go ahead and mount your vent hose back on, and then you can go ahead and rebolt the bracket for the power steering with the two 13 millimeters you took out. Go ahead and mount that back down, And then after you get that done, then you can put your coil down and mount the coil and start your 4 spark plug wires. Now that you got the power steering reservoir remounted, your spark plug wires, you want to make sure you just check the routing, you know, with the number on the coil. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're numbered on the coil. Make sure you push them on, and also when we're maneuvering this, you want to make sure that they didn't pop off the coil here. So give them a little check. After you're confident that that's all good, that completes the valve cover. Now we're ready to reinstall the intake manifold. But before we do that, we need to change the O-rings, gaskets here, and wipe the surface clean. So these are the new O-rings that are going to mount into the intake, the upper plenum here. I wanted to show you the part number for it. This is a Felpro part number. Okay, now that we got our intake manifold gaskets changed out, we need to wipe down the surface and remove our rags from the lower intake. And then we need to check make sure that our EGR tube gasket here is in good shape. If it's in bad shape, I recommend replacing it. So now we're ready to go ahead and flip our intake manifold over and go ahead and put it back on. So when we do this, we want this hole to stab kind of first like this around the intake, around the EGR tube, and then swing the manifold down. Let's see if I can do it with one hand here. So you're gonna kind of stab the hole in first like this, like that. And once you got it stabbed, then you can put the manifold down here. And then you may give this a little wiggle, make sure it's lined up. And then you can, after you get that situated where you're happy with it, you can go ahead and start your 8mm bolts through here. And you're going to snug it up from here, 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 and then here. And then after that, then you can torque it one final time at 10 foot-pounds on the front. After that's secure, then you can go ahead and put the EGR tube. You want to put the bracket on. You may spin it up or down. It looks like the long side goes towards the driver's side and the short side goes towards the passenger side. Go ahead and start those 2 bolts and tighten the EGR tube down, and that's going to be also at 10 foot-pounds, 9 to 10 foot-pounds. Okay, now that you've got the EGR tube tightened up, now you can go ahead and install your brake booster hose. Mount that, and then the vacuum line, the purge line here, you can go ahead and remount that. Go ahead and remount the vacuum line here, so you got your purge valve, your vacuum line hooked up. You can go ahead and route your wires back through and put the little wire looms, plug them back into the tabs, and go ahead and plug your map sensor back in. You're also going to go ahead and plug in your throttle body, your idle air control molder, and then after that you can go ahead and plug in the vent line for the PCV. Plug that on the intake. Once that's plugged in, you can go ahead and take the 13mm that went underneath the throttle body here and start that bolt and tighten that down. Now that that's all tightened up, we can go ahead and put our air cleaner back on. So these little holes right here on the back of the air cleaner will hook over these little ears. So you'll hook them over, and then you'll snap your little clips on here and put the boot over the throttle body and plug in your air temp sensor. And make sure you push that lock tab after you plug it in. Push the lock tab back inwards to lock it back and secure it. And that completes the job on a 2002 PT Cruiser. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'd like to thank you for watching my videos and encourage you to subscribe for more valuable videos like this. Thank you again.